and welcome everybody to Wisdom Wednesday. It's got a little switch from last week. Last week, I think I had a really early one at like 9 a.m. in the morning, and today I have one at 8:30. So kind of nice variety. I think catches different people at different times. So I am excited to be here today with my new friend Jamie, who is also an evolutionary astrologer, and we're just going to chat. We're going to talk about nodal returns. We discovered recently that we are around the same age, experiencing the same thing with our North Node and have other similarities in our chart. And I just thought, I think we should do a talk together. So, Jamie, I'm excited for you to join me. And yeah, like I'll give you a couple minutes right now if you just want to share a little bit about your background and how you got into astrology. And then we'll start talking about nodal returns. So, thank you for joining me tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie, and I have had a lifelong love of astrology. The first time I was introduced, my grandma had a Pisces cup, and I
Okay.
was like, "What's that?" And it said like, I don't know, some cheesy stuff that's not even really accurate. But I was like, okay, and I knew my dad was a Pisces too, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I got a little older, and then I started studying it. And I really I liked it, but I felt like I was missing something or it was missing something. And I mean, I think all forms of astrology are valid, just it's different for everybody. Um, and I work with Placidus and in the evolutionary approach by Stephen Forrest.
Okay.
um, so that is mainly, it's more of a positive leaning than a lot of the other things are, and like a heavy in counseling and just to figure out and get to the bottom of issues, I guess.
I love
And
all.
that was pretty much all.
Yeah, I mean, I like Placidus too. That's what I use. I've looked at whole science a little bit, but for me, I'm like really good when I can understand one system. And I'm not saying it's not valid, but for me, I think what's made the most sense on my chart is also Placidus. I think it's more intricate, and I think it looks at people more like with deeper layers. I think both of us are that same way. So I think like whole science could make it almost too simplistic or maybe too predictive, whatever it is. So for me, I've looked at it, but I'm like, you know what? I've been using this system for the last year and a half, 2 years, and my astrology teacher uses it too, and everybody I've learned from uses it. So that's what I'm comfortable with. And there's Vedic too. I know some people are into Vedic astrology, so I'm like maybe someday. And I love the evolutionary astrology too, because I also got into past lives and I got into the nodes and Saturn, and I really like think that they're like we're here for a reason. We were here before. We're going to be here again in other lifetimes. So to me, that's the part of astrology that I think makes sense and like interests me. So I know some people look at a chart, they get into the big three and they get into stelliums, and I always like to look at, oh, where are your nodes and where's Chiron and where's Saturn, and you know try to figure out what happened to somebody in the past and where they might be going. So yeah, which I
Yeah,
think.
that's the most important thing, is why are you here? What happened to you before? And how can we help you, not repeat and have to do it again, I guess.
Right, because it's all that karma, right? The karmic lessons and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think, like, I think in our lives, like, for me at least, before I got into spirituality, like, I'd always heard about karma and all of that. But I think until, like, I started getting into astrology, it didn't, like, really realize in my mind, like, about, like, things that actually happened to me and these deja vu moments and certain people and experiences and angel number, like, all of it. And I'm like, it's not an accident, like nothing is an accident. You come across, you meet certain people at certain times and experiences, like it's all orchestrated. We have free will, right? I'm sure you believe we have free will, but there's certain,
Absolutely.
like it's like I don't know. I could think of so many. I think I could write a whole book on karma, but I think there's definitely a lot with it. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about this with you. So we'll get into the lunar nodes, and I know people on the group like have come to the group because of the nature of this topic, of the nodes and North Node and South Node, and we talk about other things astrology. But I realized, like in all this time I've had the group, we've never talked about the nodal return, and I seem to be meeting people who are either in the nodal return, or if you, I don't know if you call it reverse or whatever you call the south node one, whatever it is, but I feel like a lot of people I'm seeming to meet are either in one or the other. And I thought this it's like that teachable moment, like we need to discuss it. So so let's talk about what's your experience with your nodal returns, like when you had your last one. Like do you remember like 36, 37 in that age range for you, like what life was like, and was it?
Yeah, I don't think I passed the test. It was chaos. Life was really, really bad. And I was really angry. I've got Aries Venus as well as Aries South Node in the 11th house. So a lot of stuff was just falling apart with friends, acquaintances, everything that was around me. And, I didn't even really know about all of this back then. So I went back to the South Node. It's like the universe, I think, tells you, okay, try it again. We're going to set it up again for you. And it's an opportunity to really have a lot of evolutionary growth. But, I think unless you know about it, you might not do as well as you could.
Yeah, I mean, people don't know about it. Like we hear a lot about Saturn return, constantly Saturn return. And then
Yeah.
I got into the Uranus opposition because that's like what I feel like I've been living. But like I do remember my life back when I was 36, 37, and it was a really big turning point for me because I was thinking about what do I really want still in life. And like I really was so important. Like I didn't care about career at that point. Like it didn't matter. It wasn't priority, but I knew I wanted to have another child, and it was like a mission. There was like my husband only wanted two, and I always wanted three. And no matter what, I told him I will never be happy unless I have three. Like it was just something that was in me, knew that like I was supposed to have a third child. And like so it was like I finally convinced. I had two miscarriages, so like this was part of my time. And I can talk about it now, but back then I told nobody. I didn't talk to anybody anyways, but like I never talked to people. But I lived that time and didn't know if I'd get pregnant again. Like just figured, okay, the universe is just saying, you know what, you were wrong. You really aren't supposed to have another child. So I was in a very big emotional state. I told people I was pregnant that first time. It was at 12 weeks when I miscarried them.
Wow.
So that was like the time where, it's like safe to like tell the world. And I'd already told the world, and I never had a miscarriage before. Didn't even realize that could happen to me. So like I dealt with that, and that was really tough. Got pregnant again, and then that happened again. So it was just like, okay, like what's supposed to be happening to me? So like that was in that time. And also I think Pluto square for me was around that time too, and I'm ruled a lot by Pluto. So like that was a really tough point, but I was like, yeah, but I'm not giving up because I knew in my heart like I was supposed to have another child. And I feel like, souls come for a reason. Like my third son was supposed to be here to help me with my life. And I truly believe that. Like he is here to help me. And like I'm like, no. And I did get pregnant, and I was nervous for all like 40 weeks. Literally, he was born and he was born on his due date. Like it was crazy. It was literally born on his due date. But yeah, so to me, like as I reflect on that, I think of what happened to me when I was 36, 37. That was the big thing. Like there was nothing else. And that was like this karmic thing. Like there was just so much around it, all those emotions around it. And I think there was a lot of learning, like all this soul growth. So it definitely hit me hard. And I didn't talk about it till years later. And I knew nothing about astrology then either. So yeah, I think that I wish for people to know about it because you hear about the other like Saturn return, or you might hear about Jupiter return, but I'm like, do they even understand what their nodes are? Do they know what the North Node and South Node is? So yeah, that was like that chunk of time for that like year and a half ish that was like a bit rough. But looking back on it now, I'm like, yeah, I lived it, and I'm here to tell the tale, and it wasn't easy then, but like my soul was supposed to go through it. That was like that time, that was the lesson. So I don't know if you have anything else specific, anything like that, but like it, definitely it's a tough period of time.
Yeah, mine was around the Pluto square thing too, which I wasn't aware of at the time. And I did the math, and I was like, wait a minute, that was like around the exact same time. it was just crazy. Like I was acting like a crazy person. Like the worst of Pluto, that was pretty much me. You know, like I felt like I was losing my mind. Like I was losing touch with reality. I was screaming at people, you know. Like I would tell people that like they're standing too close to me. I'm like, get the, you know, away from me. You're too close to me. I mean, it was just, but maybe that was the plan. I had to like get rid of all the anger and stuff before I could really start again.
Yeah, and if you think about it, I've been like writing all these transits and kind of making connections. So at age 36, we're dealing with Jupiter return, which expands everything, and it could be lucky, right? We're also dealing with this nodal return around the same time, and then also Pluto square. So like if all three of those are hitting you at once, like no wonder that's difficult, you know? I
Oh
think it
yeah,
not everybody gets their Pluto square. I think it depends where your Pluto is. I think for our generation,
because
yes.
it's like erratic.
But I think in other, because I was reading in some of the other generations, Pluto is going to hit later. It's just because we have the Pluto in Libra that it's like around that time frame. So yeah, things for us like really got amplified and hit hard, like full. And maybe that's what our soul said. Hey, we want to come into this lifetime and we want to have this blockbuster experience, you know. And we got it right. We got
Oh
it.
yeah,
Yeah, so that it's, you know, and I think anybody right now who's either North Node Libra or Aries is feeling it. And if you have energy in the first and seventh house, you're feeling it, you know? And if you have like, and some of that, like for me, I have first house and I have, you know, the North Node in Libra, you know, South Node Aries. I don't have anything in the seventh house. Apparently, I don't care about relationships, but I don't have
I
anything.
don't either.
Yeah, my seventh house is empty, but I mean, I've never like marriage has never been like, and commitment has never been like the thing that defines me, and so it makes sense it's not in my chart. Although I'm getting a lot of transits by the seventh house because I think right now the universe is wanting me to like under like what do I think about relationships? What do I want them to be? And like so, I think it's a reevaluation period. So it
Pluto went through my seventh for like I don't know 13 years or something, and it when it finally went into Aquarius, that went into the eighth house, and I was like, well, at least the energies, you know, mesh better in the eighth. But yeah, that was awful. Like I lost friends, like all kinds of bad stuff happened, but it's crazy.
it was all part of it. So I guess the question is, so if we talk about like because you're studying the evolutionary astrology, and so if we
Yeah.
talk about the lunar nodes and the so the actual nodal return, and then there's the reverse one, like if we were to give people advice or tell people like what's one versus the other, like what would you tell people, like what would you how would you advise, or you know, just give information for people who are curious. And looks like Tanya,
Um,
thanks for joining us. She's got her sixth, seventh, and eighth empty. God, my sixth and seventh are empty too.
yeah, my eighth is empty too. Um, so basically the when you have like the let's just call it reverse. I think that's what they call it anyways. The eighth or the south node is opposite of you. Um it's more like about going into like the karmic memories and trying to elevate yourself and grow from that experience. Anything that, you know, blind spots that you may have missed before, that's like revisited, you know. That's what I would say about the reverse.
You're like
Um
literally describing what I've been experiencing over the last few months, like with all of that karmic things where I'm making realizations about things that like I don't know why it never occurred to me, but like it's all hitting now in such an obvious way, and it's super crazy. But exactly what you said. Even last week, I was making these like connections between all the karmic relationships, and yeah, and I was like, do other people experience this too, or is this just like happening to me? You know, this is what I was like wondering. I'm like, because that's crazy, all this stuff. But exactly like what you said, that's so true.
is anything making an aspect? Like is there oppositions to your Libra stuff?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it. Like I look at my aspects, but I didn't look that deeply. Like I know I'm having transits right now, in my 6th, 7th, and 8th. I think if that's right, or did it move? It might be 7th, 8th, and 9th now. I think that's what it is. So I had some planets by the 7th. I don't remember which ones were where, but some in 7th, some in 8th, some in 9th. And it made sense to me because I'm evaluating relationships, I'm having major transformation, and I'm thinking about belief systems. Like, what do I really believe? Like, when I'm thinking about that 9th house, yes, I've been traveling more and exploring, but I think for me, it's kind of like, what do I really believe about things? So yeah, I think so. I think so for sure.
Sorry, my phone. I didn't realize was dying, so I'm going down to get my charger.
It's all right. It's all right.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly what you said. I took notes on this today because I was thinking about making a class on it because it's like really what got me into astrology even deeper was like, what is my purpose? What is my why? And that's why I got into the North Node. And then my podcast partner, Ashley, she was getting more into the South Node. And I thought that was really interesting because like the North Node is all your purpose, and she was connecting like with spirits and like all this medium things last year, and she was getting interested in the South Node. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense because this is like your past lifetimes. And then I started getting more into it too. But I was like, oh yeah, that so makes sense. And then, then I like was rereading my one book, and I was like, yeah, my South Node, I'm the South Node Aries warrior. I'm always in like ready to fight. I have my like my little crystal. Like I'm always in fight mode. I go back to independence. Living in that Libra North Node is not my comfort. It's not easy for me. I don't like it and I don't want to. And I'm like, I don't care. That's my mission this lifetime. And I know more than anybody, I'm supposed to embrace it, but I am resistant every time because every time I do my Libra way, I get burned. So that's why I'm just like, go back to your Aries way. You know how to do that. You can be this warrior. So
it's so hard.
yeah.
And I noticed they keep sending some interesting things that I'm like, oh, somebody's trying to see if I'm going to get mad. I don't know. One day I almost got into a fight with a guy because he was too close to my car. It sounds so dumb, but I'm just like, I just got so mad, and I just looked at his face. I'm like, I'm going to get out and I'm going to fight this guy.
Where's your Mars?
My Mars is in the 9th in Aquarius.
Okay. Well, I mean, do it your way, right?
Yeah.
It's that's like that talking energy. Yeah.
I did not get out of the car, and I haven't gone crazy like that when I was younger for a very long time. But, I sat in the car and just tried to breathe. And I'm like, I've got to choose to be peaceful. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try to be calm.
Yeah, because
I'm doing a lot better with it now, but I've done so much work on it. But it still comes up, it's always going to be there no matter what you do. My teacher said something really interesting, that your South Node, you need to give it away.
What do you
need to take the energy of it and give it away to other people. So for me, what I do with that is, my daughter is a Libra, and she's a typical Libra where she, I mean, everybody's different, but they do tend to not be, they want to cooperate. They want to go with the flow and stuff. And I'm just telling her, you cannot do that in every situation. Like, yes, that's great, but there are times where you need to stand up for yourself and you need to fight.
Be assertive.
So, I mean, I try to give courage to other people to do things you're scared of. And that's really what I've been doing.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can do with it.
I think that's a great that's how I run my coaching. I mean, I am like action oriented. No matter what I tell people, I'm like, yeah, we could talk about some things, but what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to do? Like, what's our action? Like, like that Aries, that trailblazing, like what's the initiative? My son is Aries. And I think that might be why we connect, because my South Node Aries and him, it's like, I get that energy, and it's like that impulsive, just want to do the thing. Don't think it all through. Sometimes you don't get along with the people, but I also have Libra moon, and my Libra moon does want to like have harmony and connect. So it's just it's like kind of an interesting place to be. So, but we know that our mission, and I think Tanya also is North Node Libra, our mission is to cooperate and collaborate with people. Like that's what we're supposed to do in this lifetime. And I took it at first that was like in relationships, like marriage. And I already thought to myself, well, I've already failed that one. So like, what's going to be the next one? Maybe I'll do it in business. Maybe I'll do it with friendship. Maybe I'll do it with my family. I'm like, it doesn't have to be like, in the love domain, but I think we have to do it successfully somewhere. So that way in the next life, we don't have that same North Node mission. We get a different one. So I don't know what you think. I don't know what it takes to actually like who deems it successful or how we know we've done it right. But in which relationship we have to do it and how many times. These are all things, of course, I ponder, like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And how do I fix it if I'm not?
Yeah. And do you talk with your guides?
I don't really listen to anybody, but
They'll tell you if you ask them. They'll tell you how you're doing.
Yeah, I guess I could. I guess I could. I don't have any Taurus in my chart, but I could be very stubborn and like I always think like I know best, and that's also maybe some of the Aries too. I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I probably should do that because it's like when they say when you're reaching out for outside guidance, like your higher self knows better, and like if you're doing something the way you're supposed to. So in my Virgo rising, I could tell you that I'm going to be hard on myself and say no. I have not accomplished that mission at all, and it might take me my whole lifetime to accomplish that mission. So maybe on my next nodal return, I think it's 55. I think where we're around 55 and a half, we hit the next
55, 56.
So maybe by that, I'm like, that's a really long time. And I'm like, I hope I could get it figured out by then. And that's a few years before the next Saturn return, which is around 58, 59. So I'm like, I don't know what's going to be happening in my life by then. But yeah, I mean, right now we're both in this reverse one, trying to figure it out like who we are. And the other thing I saw today was talking about integrating the old and the new. So it's kind of like taking the lessons of the South Node and integrating it in and like using it in a better way to go forward. So
yeah, there's a sort of balance. Like you already have the Aries thing down. You know how to be an Aries. You know how to do that. You'll have the courage, but then with the Libra-ness, you'll also have the ability to listen to other people and cooperate and just be calm, just like relax. A lot of the Libra North Node is we need to calm down because we came from something really bad, and we're angry, whatever it is that happened. So now we just need to calm down.
That is good advice. It's funny, people tell me all the time that they think I'm grounded. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what perception I create, but I'm like, it depends on when you catch me, I suppose. But I don't know if it's that Virgo that shows up, but sometimes you just have to keep it together. But also, like when you're in a warrior, like if you've been in battle, you're the one who has to keep it together. The leader always has to be strong, right? Like you have to live for everybody else. So I think we embody that. So that could come off calming because, right, if you're looking up to your president or leader of a company or whatever, you need that person to take charge and know that everything is going to be okay. So like I think because of that, we have that. And now we have to work on our like negotiation skills, right? Like not just like making all the decisions, but allowing other people to do that.
To participate in everything,
and listen to them, because sometimes I say I'm gonna like cooperate and listen, but I don't always take into account, like I'm like, okay, I heard what that person said, but I'm still not instituting it. So I think that it's like getting better at like, okay, you don't have to run the show every time. You need to like let everybody have their little piece. And I've gotten better at that. I never when I was in school, everybody knew I was going to get all the work done, whatever it was, like the assignment, like they just knew. And then maybe that's where because I don't know if I embodied all the parts of my chart back when I was younger. I don't think so. But I think with that, I probably did, because I would just get it done. Somebody had to get it done, I'd get it done. There's like no question about it. But I don't think I would ever trust other people's like input. I'm like, nah, I don't think we need to put that in there. And I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at that. Like, okay, we can integrate those ideas because that's, that's valid, that's good. But I have to hold it to my standard, which is sometimes kind of rough because not everybody can be at that, can live to that standard. So it's like not really fair, to hold people to that standard. But yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think everybody who's like living this Aries Libra axis, like I think we're always trying to figure out self versus other. Like when do I exert myself, and when do I, you know, cooperate, or be in relationship, and um, I don't even know the right words. It's even so hard for me to even think about those words because I'm just like, that's not my energy. My
For
energy.
me, compromise was the 4-letter word. I hated it. I was like, I dated a Libra guy, and he's like, "It's always your way or the highway. You got to listen to other people. There are two people in the relationship." And I was like, "No, I don't like that." Just so yeah, it's very hard. Still hard for me to not take over.
I think that's all of us, especially like during the eclipses. Like I think that's we were all collectively experiencing, like, the one eclipse was dealing with Aries and the other one is dealing with Libra, and like how are we in relationship to like other people, and how are we thinking about ourselves, and now North Node is in Aries, and we're all supposed to be exerting all this independence. So like for us that's like easy. It's like we're naturally doing it. It's like, why aren't other people doing it? Like I always tell people all the time, just say what you want, just do what you want, just go after it. What are you waiting for? You don't have to ask 10 people. And so like it's, to me, it's like it's second nature. But I know a lot of people who are North Node Aries, and I think they must have been brought into my life for me to teach them and for them to teach me, because I just don't get that energy as much. I'm like, why can't you do the thing you need to do? I'm like, just go do it. Don't be shy. Just do it. You have one life. I tell them you have one life to live, so just do it. Whereas
It's
they're,
trying to get you to give it away. It's like they're presenting you with these people that you can give that Ariesness, and you can be like, "Oh, here, I know, I have what you need. Just do this."
I do that every single day in like I feel like in all my interactions, whether it's with my coaching clients or just like friendship, everybody, like it's just like who I am. And so sometimes people like that. They always say I'm like their cheerleader. Like I'm motivating them. Everybody says that, like to do their thing. So some people need it, and I need to like learn from them to, okay, like maybe I can do a project and it doesn't just have to be me, it could be the three of us or the five of us, and we could come up with this idea together. So I have definitely gotten better. And I don't know if this was ever your reality, but like for years I would think like I always wanted the perfect business partner for whatever I was going to do. I'm like I knew like I could run my show, but I'm like, if I could just find that other person to work with. I always was like searching for that. And I think this is like this North Node Libra thing. I never understood why I was always like searching for it. And I feel like now it makes more sense. I don't know if I found it, but I feel like even in small things, I'm like, you know what? I worked with this person on this project and it worked really well. And this person did this thing that I couldn't do. And I did this thing. So it's been minor things, but maybe that's like kind of chips away at the mission. I'm like, okay, maybe that's, I can add that as like a tally mark. Like I did a North Node Libra thing and I did that pretty well. So what's the next mission? So I don't know if you feel that for you at all, in terms of like collaborating with people. Like, are you cognizant of it? Are you aware of it? Like when you're in interaction with other people?
Well, in my day job, I'm a lead, and I have a lot of stuff in the 11th house. And I proposed that that for it to get approved, that I would meet all the people of the team, and it would just be me leading it, and we would all get together and just kind of connect with each other. So I feel like that kind of does something for it. We go over things that they're interested in or they have questions about. It's probably both. It's probably the Ariesness and the Libraness, because there's other people, and I listen to what they say, and it's like I'm kind of like a mentor for them.
That's good. I mean, I think they
Yeah.
have to work together. I think the opposition of it, it's like they help each other. It's that accountability. It's like, okay, you can do this thing, and then they teach you to do the other thing. So, yeah,
Yeah, and we all kind of work together to get things done. But like and like my spiritual part of my life, it's really hard to like think of working with someone because I'm so used to just it being me. But I mean, that would be awesome because, you know, one person lacks things that you have, and then, you know, vice versa. And I could see how that would be really a cool experience to have.
Right. It just, I
Yeah.
think it's like slowly opening the door to it, right? Like, okay, they could be this, and but like it has to, it can't be anybody. Or get it, and I think it makes sense like what somebody's, you know, like what's, especially like if you know somebody's chart and you have like a good idea, like, okay, this is where their strengths are, and you know, these are where my strengths are. And like I found that with my podcast partner because she has an Earth Grand Trine, so she's very grounded, and she's also I think she's got like fifth house energy. She's very creative, and I'm not good at creating like these Canva and these little things, and she can do all that. So she's done all that for us, and I'll promote and market and do anything else. Like I'll do that thing, and I'll do the research, and I'll do that. And so it's kind of nice because it's like I have learned. I'm like, okay, there's certain things I can't do, and I could like be vulnerable and say like I can't do these things. I suck at these things, but you can do these things, and I can do all the things you don't want to do that you're not good at. And like that has worked for me. And I've, in the last few years, I've gotten better about recognizing other people's strengths and how we can complement each other instead of me trying to do everything and not doing everything well, especially the things I know I'm not good at, and not being stubborn about it and just being out there and be like, hey, because it empowers the other person. That's what I've also learned too. We empower other people and they want to help, so we have to allow them to help us, and that's an personal and professional too. So I've always been the person people have reached to, and I'm like, well, and I realize, well, people want me to reach out to them too, which I don't like, but I realize, okay, well, that makes them feel good because they feel like they helped me. I could use the help sometimes, so I'm like, yeah, just let them help you. You know, like it to me, it's like a very big sign of weakness to allow that. But and I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I really don't like people helping me, and I really don't like that you asked, but I'll let you do it anyway because I know I'm supposed to. But it's definitely it's harder, and I think, I don't know if it's how I grew up, or I don't know if it's like all this like past lifetime thing I lived where it's just so ingrained in me to not reach out, but it takes everything in me to do the opposite. So but I know I'm like, well, I'm supposed to just do it, and it's going to make my life easier, and that's my mission. So you know, your
Yeah,
mission.
I'm the same way. I don't like asking for help.
And I think that's also, I don't know if it's a gender thing, but I think also as women, we've, you know, had to take on so much, and we want to prove ourselves in so many ways. And we've had to prove ourselves in so many ways. So we kind of just rise to the challenge because we have to. Like I always feel kind of, it's like being an underdog. It's like almost a better position to be. It's like you have to like prove yourself in different ways, so you don't reach out for the help because you want to show that you can do all these. But in the end, like I just say now it takes a village. So I'm like,
For sure.
who's in my village? Like who's in my soul tribe village? It's not a lot of people. It's like a select number of people, but you know, can they be in there? And I think that is the thing. So yeah, I think it's just, you know, like kind of, you know, connecting back with like, you know, the talk. It's like, you know, we're figuring these things out, and these nodal returns, whether it's the actual nodal return or the reverse nodal return, like this is our time. These are like these pivotal karmic times that we all experience. And yeah, hope we're the better for it, you know?
Yeah, it's a growth experience regardless of what happens, you know.
And especially if anybody has like it, also I feel like if you have eighth house energy, which I do, or Scorpio, because you're Scorpio, are you Scorpio?
Moon.
Moon. Okay, that's what I thought. So like I feel like anybody who's got like Scorpio on their chart, I have Scorpio in Mother spot, but it's a generational planet, so I don't know if I count that quite the same. It's much different when it's, you know, like it's your sun, your moon, whatever. It's a much different thing. So I feel like yes, if you're a person who's constantly transforming, or I have Pluto first house, which I feel like makes me Scorpio like. So it's like if you're in this mode of like constantly transforming, like we're kind of living this, we're kind of experiencing all of this. And yeah, maybe that's part of our mission too, to teach other people like, hey, you got to change, you got to transform, and you know,
Don't
go
be
with
scared.
right. I have more mutable energy than my other ones. I don't know if I realized it till even though I know my chart, it's like you gloss over certain things. And then I was like looking at my chart again compared to other people's. I'm like, oh, I have slightly more mutable energy than my cardinal and fixed. I always thought of myself as having a lot of cardinal energy because I feel like I embody that. And I looked back and I'm like, actually, I have more mutable energy. And I guess that makes sense because I'm constantly changing
It's
and
flexible.
transforming. Yeah. And like I can change. I go, I can go with it. And if something else happens in 10 minutes, then okay, that's what it needs to be. Whereas that's not true for everybody. Some people who are so fixed and so stubborn, they don't want to do that. So I'm like,
What's funny is the the dominant the dominant one for me is fixed, actually. But like my Mercury and my sun sign are Pisces.
okay.
So like I'm very like go with the flow, but I think the fixedness shows up when I start doing something. And I'm like, I'm not going to quit. I am not going to quit. No matter what happens, I am going to get through this and I'm going to figure it out.
I mean, I have that too. I think that's in my Virgo. Like, I don't give up at all, unless like to the death. Like, I will not give up on anything, which is, I think, sometimes my downfall too, because sometimes you just have to call
Right.
it, just be done. I think that's what happened in my marriage, where I just was not willing to give up in my mind, just like work at it. My Libra nature was like, no, let's have harmony, let's make everything work, and we don't give up. We make everything work. We're gonna go against all odds. We're not gonna listen to anything any psychic said or anything else. We're gonna just prove them wrong. And in the end, I was like, yeah, I probably should have, realized like I should have called it. So I think it's just like these kind of lessons, like, yeah, the resiliency is good. That's important. But also it's like taking everything into account. Like, are we truly seeing clearly, And I think if we're living in that South Node area way, where we're so independent and so reliant on self and we're not listening to outside perspectives, then we got the blinders. So that's what I feel like for me. And when you're in a situation, you don't see everything, and that's
Right.
we need the other people, because it's like you can hear things. Like, I'm sure you probably give advice to other people, and because it's their situation. But then when it's your situation, we don't see it, right? We don't see it.
Right.
Other
I so
people,
relate. Yeah.
and then other people say it, and then you're like, you don't even understand what I'm going through, and it's like we ignore it or discount it or think it doesn't quite apply until reflection later, like, yeah, I should have listened. They did see it clearly, and my situation really was that it wasn't some unique thing, it really was the same thing. But I think it's like some of that Aries, maybe impulsive immaturity, stubbornness, maybe, that doesn't allow us to think it that way. So at least I feel that for me, because I realize it like every single day how I've missed out on people telling me things because I wasn't willing to listen, and I just thought I knew best, and I should have listened to those outside perspectives, like the Libra-ness. So I feel like maybe that at least for sure for me, I feel like that's the lesson. Like, I need to be open, and when I get the guidance, don't just discount it, keep it in the back of my mind, think about it more, but don't just immediately write somebody off because it wasn't me coming up with the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard that. That's for sure.
And I mean, I think I've become friends with a lot of people that are North Node Libra. I think there's not as many of us. I feel like I encounter North Node Aries all the time. And maybe that's just who is in, I don't know, my trajectory. But like recently, I'm like, okay, I do have some friends, a good 3 or 4 people that I'm friends with. We're all North Node Libra. And so I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to be helping them. They're supposed to be helping me. We're on the same mission together. We have the same soul purpose. So are we doing it? And I'm like, we're all like in this reverse nodal return. I've been telling people recently, I'm like, we're all living this. They don't even know what it all means, because they're not even as into astrology and spirituality like we are. But I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I think that needs to be the next thing I spread, like we're in this time period of it. So
I checked my software yesterday and I was like, oh wow. This node is like a near exact square to my ascendant, Cancer ascendant, and then it's also opposing my Pluto.
that's a lot.
Yeah. And then there's something going on, Chiron. How do you say that?
Chiron, I've heard it's moving.
Chiron. I always try to put a ch there, but it's just not something that you hear out loud very much.
High
at
rock.
least for me. Yeah, that's doing something to Venus, and it's a lot, but not as intense as my other ones have been.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. I mean, I feel like we had the eclipse. I feel like that really set a lot in motion. So maybe things are settling a bit. So, although I did say those energies are going to last about 6 months, and I was told that come the next eclipses, I'm going to have some really interesting realizations. I'm like, I can't wait. I'm like, it's been a year of it. So I don't know what I'm going to figure out more by time September October time rolls around, but it I guess it's sort of like the culmination of what the first set of eclipses showed us. So I don't know. I
Okay, yeah, I haven't been following that. I mean, I love the moon, but I don't know. I didn't connect that. I haven't been paying attention very much to the
but
moon lately.
we got time. We got time. I'm sure we'll be hearing about it because that's the next set of eclipses. So it won't be as talked about as the March April, like those two eclipses, but I think for us, anybody who's got the Aries, Libra, and like first and seventh house energy, I think we're going to hear it more. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll be reporting on it. So we'll see. I'm hoping that we don't. I'm hoping for a time of peace, like a wrapping everything up. So. And actually, speaking of that, I just realized we talked for 41 minutes. So it is probably time. I could, my Gemini stellium, I could talk all day. So, and we had a good conversation, and I love that you have this background in astrology, and yeah, I think we had a good talk. I look forward to getting to know you more and having you share more in the group. I've appreciated your wisdom and just your responses to members already. So that's been exciting. And anybody who's watching later, because I know we only had a couple people on now, and if you're watching on replay, feel free to share your thoughts, especially if you're North Node, South Node in the Aries Libra axis, because I know there's a bunch of people in the group who have it. And yeah, thanks again, Jamie, for chatting with me about all this.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been awesome.
Of course, we get to have a cool talk and talk astrology. So it's my favorite thing to do. I would talk it all day long. So,
Me too. Finally have somebody to talk to about it.
for sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
there's lots of people in our community who love talking astrology too. So you found a good spot. So,
Yeah.
so we want to wish everybody a good rest of the Wisdom Wednesday. Hopefully you're doing okay with all the different cosmic energies. I think this week isn't too crazy. There's always like different things going on, but like nothing too intensive. Unless what's going on in your own personal chart. There's always that. But I think just like in general, this week is not too bad. So Jamie, thanks again. Everybody have a good night. And we'll see everybody next week for Wisdom Wednesday. So